going to encourage you, if you would, to again stand as you are able in body and spirit as we acknowledge and recognize the gospel being read. From the Gospel according to St. John and the 14th chapter, first 14 verses. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go and prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, then I will come again, and I will take you to myself, so that where I am, you may be also. And you know the way to the place that I am going. Thomas said, Lord, we don't know where you are going. How can we know the way? And Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you know me, you will know my Father also. From now on you do you know him as I have seen him. And Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied. And Jesus said to him, I have been with you all this time, Philip, and you still do not know me? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak on my own, but the Father who dwells within me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father and the Father is in me. But if you do not, then believe me because of the works themselves. Very truly, I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do. In fact, will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If in my name you ask for me, for anything, then I will do it. This is the gospel of the risen Christ. Thanks be to God. So today I want to embark on this unique journey of faith and reflection as we draw inspiration from the beloved musical Wicked. The enchanting tale set in the land of Oz offers us some profound insights into the human condition. Standing up for one's belief, the nature of good and evil, the power of transformation that can take place. In Wicked, we encounter the unlikely friendship of Elphaba and the so-called Wicked Witch of the West, and Glinda, the Witch of the North. A friendship, along with the struggles and the triumphs of its characters, mirrors many biblical themes. And we're going to explore some of those today as we discover how they resonate with the Christian faith. It was on October 13th, so not too far away from where we are today, on October 8th, on October 13th, 1938, that the first primary day of filming took place for The Wizard of Oz. And you've probably heard about all the problems that there were filming that, not least the fact that they went through 5 different directors before the film was completed. But no one could have imagined that it would become such an influential and iconic film. And no one could have dreamed of that there would be a prequel written many years later called Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, and that it would be made into a musical that would find its way onto Broadway and take it by storm. You see, Wicked opened on Broadway on October the 30th, 2003. October 30th. Pretty neat marketing, don't you think? To open Wicked the day before Halloween. Smart move. And it led to its success. Well, not just that, but all of what it was done. It's still running in New York. It's at the Gershwin Theater, and it's still setting all kinds of records. When I first heard the story about it and was able to go and see the musical, it was in London. My niece at the time was the assistant stage manager in charge of props for Wicked in the West End. And so she was able to get tickets for Carolyn and I when we were over there to go and see the show. She later went on to become the deputy stage manager, and now she is company manager of the Northern Ballet in Leeds, so done very well for herself, and I'm very proud of her as the one who kept that theatre tradition going within the Holmes family. But it opened there to mixed reviews initially, but it went on to become a huge success. You see, when I saw it, I first assumed that it was a story about the two girls growing up in Oz, one who would become good and one who would become bad or wicked, and that was the nature of the story. But of course, that's not what it's about. The title speaks to the way the people in the story are being treated, particularly Elphaba. She's treated wickedly by everyone because she is green in color. Will you pray with me? God, the great and powerful, we thank you for your grace and wisdom, for guiding us through the trials and tribulations of this wonderful and wicked world. Bless us now as we come to you, the good and the wicked, the brave and the meek, for we are all children, for we all have a heart. Help us find our true selves and our true friends. But most of all, help us to defy gravity and the forces of evil. Amen. You see, one of the main points that Wicked is trying to get across throughout the whole of the musical is our tendency as human beings to label other people, to stereotype and even demonize people who seem to be different to us. Wicked is trying to talk to us about racism, about sexism, about classism. If you've seen the show, did you notice how very early on in the show, the name Elphaba disappears? The people in the rest of the cast address her as witch or wicked witch. They stop calling Elphaba Elphaba. They label her. They label her because she is different. You see, one of the things that we tend to do when we're uncomfortable with people or when we disagree with them is to label them, to dehumanize them. But it's important as followers of Christ for us not to fall into that trap. Remember how when Zacchaeus, or Zacchaeus, however you pronounce it, that little short-statured tax collector who was a little stingy and sometimes, well, not sometimes, often would be dishonest, wanted to see how Jesus was when he was passing by. And if, like me, you go back to your Sunday school childhood and hear the song again in your head, you remember how he climbed up into a sycamore tree in order that he could see. But when Jesus comes by, Jesus turns and looks at him, and he doesn't address him as like, stingy tax collector, come down here. He says, Zacchaeus. Like, we're both human, we both need to eat. Come down. I would like to spend some time with you at your house. That encounter would change the nature of Zacchaeus. You see, the man who everyone had hated, had labeled, was transformed by the humanizing experience of Jesus. And so it's important for us to be aware of our tendency to be afraid when things are different, our tendency to dehumanize in those situations, and our Christian responsibility to see people as our brothers and sisters, to see them as we see ourselves, to humanize them. One thing that has helped me, oddly enough, was playing rugby at school. Now, I know that rugby isn't a game that is well known in these parts. And it's probably strange because the position I played was called hooker, which is the small guy who's between two huge blokes in the scrum, whose job it is to hook the ball out of the scrum so that you can carry on playing the game. And it's hard to believe that when I was playing that game, I was probably about 145 pounds wet. And sometimes I would line up on the field, and there opposite me would be a 5'10", 5'12", 230-pound male, and I would be a little anxious. Because playing rugby, you don't have pads. If you're in the scrum, as I was, you put on a scrum cap, but that's about it. That's just to stop your ears being chewed off or pulled off. But I would look at this person and I would say, you know, under that rugby shirt, under that scrum cap, he's just another lad, just another boy, just another man. He's got his troubles. Probably he struggles at school. Maybe he struggles with his family. He may even have been abused. He may have just broken up with his girlfriend. He may be in trouble with his dad. He may not even have a dad. You see, what I was trying to do was to humanize this person who was opposite me. Because then it was just about playing the game. I use this technique to try and be better at playing rugby, and I encourage us all to use that type of technique when we meet human beings for whom it's the first encounter and for whom we sometimes might be a little anxious. Learning people's stories. That's what we often talk about here at Roberts Park. I know it's what those who gather and help in Soups On and in other places seek to do. Hear the stories. Because once you've heard someone's story, you can't help but sometimes just love. Love them in the situation that they are in. You know, one of the great moments in the show Wicked is when Elphaba and Glinda, who grew up hating each other and labeling each other, realize that in their relationship there has been times of blessing. Realizing that they are a lot alike. Realizing that they do need each other and that they've learned from each other. And that they seek, as the song says, everything for good. Every person has their stuff, their physical, their mental, their spiritual needs and challenges. They're just like you. So everyone in this church, everyone watching this at home or wherever you are, everyone in our neighborhood, everyone in this city, in this state, in this country, in this world, all have our challenges. You know, we've heard a lot about how our country and the world, sadly, is becoming more and more divided. And the events of this last weekend, in particular with what's going on in Israel, just remind us again of the tinderbox that we sometimes live in. The incursion by Hamas into Israel. The lives that have already been lost, the wounded, not just physically, but mentally scarred. People who grow up hating each other, Palestinian and Jew. Labeling each other, dehumanizing each other to the point that they are seeking to eradicate vermin. Our job as Christians is for us to realize and to help others realize that they are us and we are them. That is probably the most important thing that we can do with our time on this planet. Because if we don't do it, we will destroy each other and we will certainly end up destroying this world. And so, as the people of Oz were acting wickedly towards Elphaba, but they're not the only people doing it. Indeed, in the musical and in the book itself, it's the wizard. In the musical, this wizard is a very dysfunctional type of guy. We discover that he is, in fact, a paranoid dictator, trying to suppress free speech. He tries to silence anyone who speaks out against him. But he's also a master of propaganda, a master of using the media. So the citizens of Oz don't quite realize how the wizard has manipulated them. And they think he's wonderful. And when the wizard discovers that Elphaba has special powers, he hopes that he will get her on his side so that he can oppress the people more. But when Elphaba first hears about the wizard and what he's doing, she can't believe it. She's in denial. It can't be happening. We might believe the same after all. It couldn't happen here in the US. Suppression, intolerance, that won't happen. But Elphaba finally realizes the wizard's true intentions, and she gets upset. She's determined to fight against him. But with his propaganda and with the public on his side, the wizard spreads lies about her. He shouts the news that Elphaba is a devil, that she's tormented, demented. She is a wicked witch. You see, the musical even goes into misogyny. But there are a number of religious and moral and ethical issues and themes that run throughout this musical. But the dominant theme that kept running through my mind as I was studying how I was to present this were the parallels between Elphaba's life and the life of Jesus Christ. You see, both Jesus and Elphaba were viewed as different and rejected by their own people. When he was a young man, Jesus met with his elders and teachers in the temple, who marveled at his wisdom. When Elphaba was a young woman, a teacher discovers that she has these special powers. Jesus is tempted by the devil in the wilderness. Jesus can have anything he desires if he is willing to join the tempter. Elphaba is tempted by the wizard. She can have anything she desires if she's willing to go over to his side. Jesus gets angry in the temple and confronts those in power. Elphaba gets angry at the wizard and confronts those in power. And this is when Elphaba sings that wonderful song that we heard, Defying Gravity. It ends the first act of the show. And of course, that song has a double meaning. It's the first time that Elphaba is able to defy gravity physically and fly. But the second meaning, perhaps the more dominant meaning, is about standing up for what you believe in, standing up for what you are doing, for what is right, standing up for being free and an independent thinker and an independent doer. To fight for what is right, even in the face of adversity. Let's just look at the lyrics for the first time again that we hear that song and see if you could picture in your mind Jesus saying these words. As he moves towards Jerusalem, as it were, before he gets to that final entry, see if these words might ring true as being words Jesus could have said. Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Too late for second guessing. Too late to go back to sleep. It's time to trust my instincts, to close my eyes and leap. I'm through with accepting limits because someone else says they are so. Some things I cannot change, but I'll try. Some things I cannot change, but till I try, I'll never know. It's time to try defying gravity. I think I'll try defying gravity. Jesus' action against those in power were to determine his future. He is persecuted. Elphaba's actions against those in power determine her future. She will be persecuted, right? Or as Madeleine Lingo once described Jesus by recalling a line by T.S. Eliot, do I dare disturb the universe? Madeleine Lingo reminds us that Jesus was a universe disturber. That got him crucified. And that to follow his way is to be a universe disturber. And that can make us very unpopular. But Elphaba was a lot like Jesus. Sometimes I have to remind myself that the word Christ is not the surname, as it were, the last name of Jesus. It's not like, Andrew Scanlon Holmes. The word Christ is a title. It means the Messiah, the anointed one. And that's why you will sometimes hear people say, Jesus the Christ. They're saying Jesus the Messiah, Jesus the anointed one. The word Christian means little Christ. Christians are called to be a little Christ. That would reshape our thinking if the word Christ is attached to our name. Anointed one, child of God, Peter, son of God, Janie, daughter of God, anointed one. Jesus told his disciples in that reading that we heard from Matthew's Gospel that they would go on and do better things. They would be like him, but that they would do better and greater things than he could do. And I don't believe that he was just talking to those followers at that time. I think Jesus is talking to each and every one of us gathered here and online and watching this. He's talking to you and to me. Anyone who would follow his way. For Jesus was one Christ. But we all have the potential of being a Christ. There's more of us than there were Jesus. We could be doing greater things together. In fact, Jesus is counting on that. You know, there's a lovely story of a lady called Georgina. And she was a member of a church for over 40 years. And when Georgina died, her husband was going through her things. And as he emptied her wallet, he found in it some papers with words written on that sort of described his wife's philosophy. On one slip of paper were these words: criticism should be like rain, gentle enough to do good, but never to destroy the roots. Gentle enough to do good, but not to destroy the roots. And on another slip, if there is any kindness I can show, let me show it, for I shall see this day only once. And then another, what you do with what you have makes you who you are. And then the last quote that he found was the one that apparently she had often heard and had said herself in the congregation she had grown up in. You may be the only Christ a person will see. Think about that. You will be the only Christ a person may see. Carolyn and I were at a conference last week. One of the speakers there was William Cope Moyers, the son of the great Bill Moyers. William was a great presenter and clearly a chip off the old block. Bill Moyers, at the age of 89, is still writing and broadcasting. And William's presence at the conference reminded me of a Bill Moyers story that I'd heard some time ago. As many of you will know, Bill Moyers left the world of politics and felt called to become a journalist. In fact, one of the things I learned from his son was Bill Moyers was actually an ordained minister. I didn't know that, as many in the room didn't know it. But after his time in politics, he felt called to go into journalism. In 1988, he did a groundbreaking 6-series show. He interviewed Joseph Campbell, the great writer and mythologist, and in 20 hours of recording, he condensed them down to 6 one-hour programs. And during that recording, Joseph Campbell said that people say that what we are all seeking is a meaning for life. I don't think that's what we're really seeking. Joseph Campbell goes on to say, I think what we're seeking is the experience of being alive. So that life's experiences that we have on the purely physical plane will have resonances within that those are lost in our innermost being. Well, a year or so after those transmissions, Bill Moyers was walking out of a restaurant on 8th Avenue, he says, between 56th and 57th Street. He was walking down the street when a young African-American woman was walking towards him, and their eyes connected as they passed each other. Bill then turned a little and happened to see that she turned to him too. "Mr. Moyers," she said. "Yes?" "Do you have a minute?" He said, "Sure." She said, "I came to New York to be an actress, and I was having a really difficult time. I had some good auditions, but none of them were satisfactory. My boyfriend and I were living together for a year, and then he suddenly left me. Life just came to an end for me." And she said that one night I came home and she actually pointed across the street towards an apartment building. And she said, "I went up, turned on the gas burner, pulled down the window, went and poured myself a large glass of bourbon, and I lay down on the couch. I was ready to go." And she said that morning she had left the television on. And she heard these two guys talking about myths and the meaning of life and all of this stuff. And I heard one of them say that what people are looking for is not the meaning of life, but they're looking for the experience of being alive. And she said, "You know, something just snapped." And then she said, "I heard the voice of the announcer say, 'Come back next week for the second edition of Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell on the power of myth.' And she said, I got up, I poured out the bourbon, I turned off the gas, I opened the window, and I watched every single one of those episodes. And what I decided was that I didn't need to be an actress. I just needed to experience the possibility of life every day." You see, you never know when you will be a Christ for someone. You never know when you might be the only Christ someone will ever see. You never know when you might be an instrument for God's peace and love, bringing light and life to others. Bill Moyers never knew that he had saved someone's life, but he did share later on that these kind of things happened all the time because of those interviews. So one last similarity between Elphaba and Jesus. Everybody thought they were both dead and gone. But in fact, they were both very much alive. They, however, both needed to leave those who had developed the relationships with them. Elphaba believes so that Glinda can fulfill her role as the good witch. Glinda is now much wiser and much humbler person. She can do a lot of good in the world if she stays and fulfills her calling. Jesus leaves his disciples, his followers, so that they can continue his dance, as the poet Anne Weems, dubbed once the Presbyterian Poet Laureate, said. In fact, she says, Christ came by and we learned his dance. The Lord does his dance on the temple floor. The Lord does his dance with the tax collector. The Lord does his dance with the woman on the streets. The Lord does his dance with all the wrong people. So come on. Let's be little Christs. Let's dance in the temple. Let's dance in the city. Let's dance in the sanctuary and out on the streets. Let's join hands and dance when the music leads us. And like Jesus and like Elphaba, let us defy gravity. So I encourage you, if you could now, to stand as you are able in body and spirit for our closing benediction. May the magic of friendship, like Glinda and Elphaba's bond, guide you through life's twists and turns and beyond. May you defy gravity and reach for the sky with courage and heart. You'll learn how to fly. May your journey be filled with love and with song, and may you find where you truly belong. May you cherish each moment, both happy and blue, and may all of your dreams and desires come true. As you follow your path, may you always be blessed. With courage and kindness, be truly your best. In the spirit of wicked, let's all come together to make this world better now and forever. So go forth with hope, with faith in your stride, with the wisdom of Glinda and Elphaba as your guide. May your story be like theirs, enchantingly told, with a heart full of goodness and a spirit so bold. In the land of Oz, or wherever you roam, may your life be as wickedly wonderful as home. And so may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace this day and forevermore. Amen.